It started with the little things. It always does, doesn't it? A shift in tone. The way her phone seemed to face down more often. The way she laughed at her text like there was a whole world in there I wasn't part of. But I didn't say anything. I'd learned not to chase ghosts. Or rather, I'd convinced myself that's all they were. Ghosts. Flickers of insecurity, shadows of doubt. Things I could wave away with trust and love and a little forced ignorance. Out with coworkers, she'd said that Friday night. That wasn't unusual. She worked in a fast-paced marketing firm downtown, mostly women, some young guys fresh out of college who still thought GQ advice columns were gospel. She'd always made it clear those work events were more team-building than optional. So I stayed home, made some pasta, folded some laundry, even watched a couple episodes of a show she and I had started together, which felt like a small betrayal at the time. Funny, thinking back, that was the night I broke the rule about skipping ahead on Netflix. The last night I thought she was mine. She got home late. Not trashed, but tipsy. Her heels clicked against the hardwood a little louder than normal. She smelled like vanilla and smoke. "Good night," I asked, pausing the TV. She hesitated, just for a second, but I caught it. "Yeah," she said, "just drinks and laughs. Everyone needed to blow off steam after this week." She kissed the top of my head and went upstairs. I told myself not to read into it. Everyone's allowed a long night. Everyone's allowed privacy. The thing is, it kept happening. Once a week, then twice, then three. Always coworkers. Always vague stories about who was there and what they talked about. When I'd ask which bar or restaurant, she'd shrug and say something forgettable. Nothing ever specific. I didn't snoop. I didn't check her phone. I wanted to be better than that. But the feeling grew, this gnawing, quiet dread in my stomach that hummed louder with each lie I couldn't prove. And then came the call. It was a Tuesday. Rainy. I remember that because I was home early from work, watching the storm through the front window. I almost didn't answer when the unknown number lit up my phone. "Hello." A pause. Then a voice. Male. Young. Hesitant. Hey. Is this Noah?" "Yeah." "Who's this?" "It's Marcus. I work with Emily." Or, well, I did. "Look, this is kinda awkward, but I just wanted to ask, is everything okay? With her?" I stood up straight, like my body braced before my mind caught up. "What do you mean?" "Well, she hasn't been in the office in over 2 weeks. She just stopped showing up. No notice. HR says she quit, but no one's heard from her. I thought maybe she was sick or something. And then I realized, you probably know what's going on." I just figured. "She said she's been at work," I said, before I could stop myself. Silence. Then, "Man, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to stir anything up. Everyone's been worried. She was kinda close with the team, you know?" I hung up before I said something stupid. I sat on the edge of the couch for 10 minutes, just staring at nothing, trying to reconcile what I'd just heard with the last few weeks. She hadn't gone to work in over 2 weeks. But every day, she left the house in her business casual, coffee in hand, pecked me on the cheek, and said, "Wish me luck. Today's packed." Where the hell was she going? That night, I didn't confront her. I didn't mention the call. I watched her walk in the door, toss her bag on the counter, and say, "Ugh, I'm so beat." She kicked off her shoes, poured herself a glass of wine, and asked if I wanted to watch anything. I said no, told her I had a headache, and I went upstairs to the guest room with a blanket and my laptop. I started piecing together everything. Dates, times, outfit changes, which purses she carried, where she said she'd be and when. I wrote it all down, like a detective in his own damn marriage. The next day, I followed her. She left the house at 8:10. Same as always. She got in her car, phone pressed between her shoulder and cheek as she backed out of the driveway. I waited a full minute, then followed at a distance. She didn't head toward the freeway, not toward downtown. She drove across town, through a residential area I didn't recognize, and pulled into a small cul-de-sac lined with trees and modest little homes. She parked outside a brick townhouse, got out, and rang the doorbell like she'd done it 100 times. The door opened. A man answered. Tall, fit, clean-shaven, maybe mid-30s. Not familiar. She smiled, this open, private kind of smile, and stepped inside. I didn't move. I didn't cry. I just sat there, in my car, watching the front door like it would spit her back out with an explanation I could believe. She didn't come out for hours. I drove home around noon, because I didn't trust myself to still be parked outside when she did. That night, she walked in just after 6. Hair slightly damp, like she'd showered. Smelled like sandalwood. How was work? I asked, from the kitchen. She didn't even flinch. Exhausting. You wouldn't believe the client meeting we had. I swear, if one more guy says the word synergy. She laughed. I smiled. And inside, something broke. She wasn't working. At least, not a job she put on a resume. I don't know how I got through the rest of that evening without screaming. I think part of me needed one more night of pretending. One more quiet dinner where I could imagine we were still us. I didn't sleep. I just laid there beside her, staring at the ceiling, her breath steady against my back. By morning, I knew what I had to do. I didn't confront her right away. I think most people imagine that moment differently, like something out of a movie. A slamming door, a shouted accusation, her wide eyes and sudden guilt. But it wasn't like that for me. I was quiet, hollowed out. There's something about knowing the person you trust most is lying to your face and smiling while they do it. That just kills something inside you. And the thing is, once it's dead, there's no reviving it. Just ashes and memory. So I started watching her. Not to catch her, I already had. No, I watched her like I didn't know her anymore. Like I was trying to figure out the woman living in my house, sleeping in my bed, wearing the wedding ring I'd given her like it still meant something. I took notes. Not on paper. Just mental snapshots. The way she suddenly took longer showers. The way she flinched when I offered to pick her up from work. How she never left her phone alone anymore. Not even when she went to the bathroom. That phone was her lifeline. Her confessional. One night, she got a text while we were watching TV. The screen lit up. I caught just a glimpse of the preview before she snatched it up, too fast. Miss you already. No name. Just that. And the little heart emoji at the end. She didn't even try to explain. Just turned the screen face down and said, Spam. Spam says they miss you now. I asked, smiling, trying to keep it light. She laughed nervously. Ugh, I meant a friend. Inside joke. I nodded, but I saw it then, the twitch in her left eyebrow. She was unraveling, too. Just slower. She still thought she had time. That weekend, I didn't follow her. I didn't check her phone. I did something worse. I faked ignorance. I made her breakfast. Offered to massage her shoulders. Told her I loved her. And she said it back. Just like that. Like it was true. Maybe a part of her still believed it was. Or maybe she just didn't want to face the collapse yet. Denial's a powerful drug. But me? I was wide awake now. No more pretending. I called Marcus, the coworker who'd tipped me off, and asked him some questions. Carefully. Casually. Turns out, she hadn't just quit. She ghosted. Didn't even clear out her desk. HR had tried reaching her 3 times. No response. Her work computer? Never turned back in. Her company phone line? Dead. And it wasn't just Marcus who noticed. She and this guy, Sean, were close, he said. A little too close. Then one day, poof. They're both gone. Sean, the guy from the townhouse. I had a name now. And something else. Marcus mentioned that a few weeks before she vanished from the office, she'd been pulling long hours. Except no one had assigned her late projects. No client deadlines. Her boss had even asked her what she was working on so late. She said, personal development. Yeah, I bet. So I went digging. Not on her phone. I still didn't have the password, but on our shared iCloud account. She'd forgotten I had access years ago when we set it up. It was mostly clean, except for one folder in the shared drive, buried in a subfolder labeled Budget 2018. Inside, photos. Dozens of them. Nothing explicit. Just snapshots of her with Sean, holding hands in a parking garage, sharing drinks in some rooftop bar I didn't recognize. One of them laughing in bed, sun pouring in through unfamiliar windows. But it wasn't the photos that hit hardest. It was the look on her face. She looked alive. Not the half-hearted smile she gave me at dinner. Not the tired affection after sex. In these pictures, she looked lit from within. Like she'd found something that made her feel real again. And maybe that's what broke me more than anything. She hadn't just been cheating. She'd been living. While I sat at home folding her laundry, waiting for her to come home smelling like someone else's cologne, she was out building a new world. One that didn't include me. So I started packing. Not dramatically. Just a little each day. A drawer here. Some winter clothes boxed up. She barely noticed. I told her I was reorganizing. And then one night, while she was in the shower, her phone unlocked, open on the bathroom counter. I picked it up. My hands didn't even shake. The messages were all there. Not hidden. Not coded. Just blatant. Sean. God, I hate sneaking around. I wish we could just be done with it. Her, soon. I just need a little more time. He's starting to get suspicious. Sean. Babe, you said that last month. Her. I know. Just trust me. One more week. That message was sent 4 days ago. One more week. One more week of lies. Of breakfasts and kisses and shared blankets. One more week of pretending I didn't know what she was doing every time she walked out that door. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the dark living room, replaying everything. Every moment. Every anniversary. Every time I'd told her I'd always protect her, never leave her, love her no matter what. And she was working. Just not a job. Not unless you count working her way out of our marriage. I stared at my wedding band for a long time. I remembered sliding it on her finger at that little vineyard in Sonoma, just us and our closest friends. The way she cried during her vows. The way I believed every tear. Maybe she did too, back then. But love without truth? That's just performance. And the curtain was coming down. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I didn't even call Sean, though God knows I wanted to hear his voice shake. I just sat there, watching the hallway, waiting for her to come out of the shower like nothing had changed. Because for her, it hadn't. But for me, everything had. The next morning, I was gone. Not with a bang. No notes. No confrontation. Just an absence. And in the silence I left behind, I hoped she'd finally hear the sound of what she'd broken. I didn't go far at first. Just checked into a small rental a few towns over. One of those airbnbs above a bakery. Smelled like sourdough and cinnamon in the mornings. I brought the essentials, clothes, laptop, my passport, and the ring. Still on my finger, for reasons I couldn't quite explain. Maybe I needed the weight of it a little longer. Maybe I wanted to feel every lie pressing against my skin. She didn't call that first day, or the second. That almost hurt more than the betrayal. The silence. The way she didn't panic. Didn't even pretend to wonder where I'd gone. As if my disappearance was just part of the plan. As if she'd already written me out of the story and was just waiting for the pages to catch up. But on the third day, I got a text. Emily, are you okay? Where are you? I stared at it for a long time. Not I'm sorry. Not please come home. Just where are you? Like I was a dog who'd wandered off and needed fetching. I didn't answer. I waited. 2 hours later, another text. Emily. Look, if this is about Sean, I didn't mean for you to find out like that. There it was. The admission. Not even dressed in remorse. Just inconvenience. I put the phone down. That evening, I got a call. Blocked number. I let it go to voicemail. It was Sean. His voice was thinner than I expected. Tense. Like someone who wasn't used to messes but had suddenly found himself in one. Hey. This is probably the last thing you want to hear, but I think we should talk. Man to man. This situation is more complicated than she let on. I deleted it before he finished. I wasn't interested in another man's version of my wife's lies. 2 days later, she showed up. I heard the knock at the door and felt it in my chest. That old instinct, to open, to forgive, to fix, surged up. But I didn't move. Another knock. Then silence. Then her voice, muffled but clear. Noah, please. I know you're in there. I opened the door. She looked tired. No makeup. Hoodie and jeans. The version of her I used to love. The one from late-night grocery runs and quiet Sundays on the couch. Can we talk? She asked, eyes soft, searching. I stepped aside. Let her in. She walked into the living room like she'd done it 1,000 times. Sat down on the edge of the couch. Didn't touch anything. I didn't plan for it to go this way, she said eventually. That makes 2 of us. She winced. I didn't mean to hurt you. But you did. Repeatedly. She nodded. I felt lost. The job was killing me. You were always busy, and I didn't know how to say I felt invisible. I sat across from her, folding my hands. So instead of talking to me, you lied. You left every morning pretending to go to a job you'd already quit, and you spent your days with him. Her eyes filled. She looked away. It wasn't just about him. It was about escaping. I felt like I couldn't breathe. And I was supposed to suffocate with you? I asked. Silence. I would have helped you, Em. I would have supported you if you were unhappy, if you wanted to change your career, your life, whatever. But you didn't give me that chance. She reached into her bag and pulled something out. A small envelope. Inside was her ring. I don't expect you to forgive me, she said. I just wanted to return this. I don't deserve to wear it. I took it, turned it over in my hand. So small, so deceptively light. She stood. I'm going to stay with my sister for a while. I already emailed a lawyer. I'll make this as easy as I can. I nodded. Not because I agreed, but because there was nothing left to say. As she reached the door, she paused. Do you hate me? I looked at her for a long time. No, I said honestly. But I don't trust you. And I don't think I ever will again. She left without another word. Weeks passed. Then months. The divorce was clean. No drama. No contested assets. She didn't ask for anything, maybe out of guilt, maybe out of pride. I didn't care. I moved out of the city, started consulting remotely. Traded the 2-story house for a smaller place on the edge of a lake. The kind of quiet that feels like a balm. Some nights I still thought about her. Not in the way that hurt, but in the way you think about someone you used to be. She belonged to a version of me that no longer existed. I heard through a friend that she and Sean didn't last. Apparently, he bailed once the fantasy wore off, once reality came knocking. I didn't feel satisfaction, just confirmation that it was never really about love. Not with him. Not with me. It was about escape, about attention, about trying to fill a hole she never let me see. One day, maybe she'll figure it out. But that's not my burden anymore. I keep the ring in a drawer by the bed. Not because I want it, but because it reminds me of what I survived. Every now and then, I get a message from someone going through something similar, asking how to move on, how to forgive. I tell them this. You don't have to hate someone to let them go. You don't have to burn everything to find peace. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away without the need to be understood. Because the truth is, some answers never come. Some apologies never arrive. But you heal anyway. You rebuild. You remember who you are. And you learn that real love, the kind that sees you, chooses you, stays with you even when it's hard, is still out there. You just have to stop bleeding for the ones who never deserved your heart in the first place.